An almost flawless Perez took the highest score this weekend, having jumped the Ferraris and kept Sainz, plus Red Bull teammate Verstappen, behind on a challenging final stint on graining medium tires. There were some close calls, the Mexican almost being passed, or collected, through the hairpin, but he kept his cool in one of the hardest settings. Leclerc's sensational pole position set him up for what seemed to be a likely first victory at home. But rain meant the Monegasque driver would face a tough task in keeping his lead, and so it proved, Ferrari's strategy unraveling and Red Bull jumping ahead while Leclerc fell to fourth. The judges gave him a high score, and there's no doubt that Leclerc has been unfortunate not to win both this and the preceding Spanish GP. Tonsillitis did little to deter Norris from a strong finish in Monaco. Qualifying a brilliant fifth, the McLaren driver managed to finish sixth on the road and take the bonus point for fastest lap, while teammate Ricciardo could only manage 13th. Moreover, Norris finished more than 30 seconds ahead of Alpine's Alonso. Another top 5 finish for Russell, who really couldn't have finished any higher with the front runners making it to the very end. The Mercedes driver's pace put him well in front of the midfielders, 12s ahead of 6th place Norris, and nearly 40 seconds ahead of teammate Hamilton. Sainz was out-qualified by Leclerc on Saturday, having crashed into the stricken Red Bull of eventual winner Perez. From second on the grid, it seemed the Spaniard had a shot at winning the race had he not been compromised behind a backmarker during an outlap from the pits. His face said it all, really. But he got a pretty solid score from the judges, and finished ahead of teammate Leclerc. Verstappen was off the pace of teammate Perez throughout the weekend, and that finally culminated in the Red Bull driver finishing third behind his Red Bull counterpart and Ferrari's Sainz. The Dutchman still managed to take the final podium place, having jumped pole-sitter Leclerc, and, most importantly, has the championship lead going into Azerbaijan. He couldn't keep up with Norris, but Alonso had a solid weekend nonetheless, qualifying 7th and finishing there, holding up a train of cars including Hamilton. It was a calculated show of driving, if a slightly infuriating one for those following him, that secured useful points for Alpine. Possibly unfortunate to qualify 17th given traffic at the end of Q1, Gasly put on the moves after an early stop for intermediate tires. A confident show of pace around Monaco, with some brilliant passes, saw him rise to 12th, but he was stopped in his tracks when the red flags flew. The Frenchman was promoted to P11 when compatriot Ocon took his penalty. Vettel nailed qualifying to make it into Q3 and secure 9th on the grid, the Aston Martin driver making an early mistake to lose a place to Ocon. His pace in the race was decent, though the four-time champion lost out to Bottas and Ocon later on. He was promoted into the points when the Alpine driver copped a 5-second penalty. Bottas couldn't string it together in qualifying, perhaps no surprise given he was hampered once again by reliability issues in Friday practice, but the Alfa Romeo driver was one of a few to capitalize when switching from wets to slicks, and finished 10th. P9 was his reward when that 5-second penalty hit Ocon.